Please welcome NewsNation's Washington correspondent Kellie Meyer in conversation with Vice Chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, Congressman Vern Buchanan.
That's perfect. All right. Hi, everyone. How's everybody feeling? Good morning. We have a seat here. Congressman, thank you for joining us. We were having a great conversation about bipartisanship backstage a bit, and we'll get into that. But I wanted to talk to you about, we had an interesting conversation about how you went from your prior life in business to Capitol Hill and how you brought what you learned to Congress. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's impacted your role on Capitol Hill?
Well, as I mentioned to you, I grew up in a blue-collar family outside of Detroit. Yeah. And my wife and I got married, I don't want to date ourselves too much, but in '76, started a little company called Speedy Printing, 2 stores, put $1,500 in, built that up to a couple $100 million. Sold it 15 years later and moved from Michigan to Florida. That's where I'm at now in Sarasota. And my wife said, you need to go out and get a day job. So I ended up deciding I'm going to get involved in, I bought a car dealership, met a friend, and then I did a roll-up. We had 25 car dealerships. So in a matter of 30 years, I've built 2 huge businesses. And when it came up for an opportunity where the seat became available, I was always supporting pro-business, especially pro-small business candidates. And I just thought it was a way to give back. And it ended up being a very tough cycle. And I won by 369 votes.
And now you've been there 10 terms.
Yeah.
Right? So we had 20 years in business, you said, 30 years in business, 20 years in Congress. What do you like better? What do you think has had more of an impact?
Well, the business is a lot more fun up here. I'm doing it because I want to try to make a difference. The country's been good. We've been blessed. And just to try to make a difference and really promote small businesses, startups, entrepreneurship. And people say, why are you always so pro-business? And part of it is because they're the job creators. Mm-hmm. The more, because we created 5,000 jobs. My last company had 1,200. And we started from, just from the beginning. So I want to do everything I can to help our people that want to get in business, stay in business. And when I did, I left a piece off we set up 800 dealers across the country. I franchised. I didn't have any money, but it's a great way to grow your business with other people's money. And I franchised it, and that's kind of how we got to where we're at. But it's just about giving back. We got challenges, but the bottom line for me is we need to find a way to work together and get some things done. And I'm optimistic about that, ideally.
Absolutely. We'll get to the bipartisanship, too, a bit later on. And I wanted to talk about, the agenda items you've been ticking through, the One Big Beautiful Bill, talking about creating jobs there. You were just back in the district. What were some of the conversations you had with your constituents around that and the impact of that, especially on jobs?
I think on the small business side, people are very excited because someone that knows in small business, whether it's Florida or the country, has your back. Same thing in Michigan. Are they going to be supportive and that type of thing? But I think the big thing is full expensing. It's a powerful tool, whether you're buying or selling. There's a thing called 199A, which is a 20% reduction for pass-throughs, because at one point we were, 37, 39% on taxes, individual taxes with most pass-through entities, but we lowered the corporate rate to 20 from 35, and we had to find a way to deal with that. So full expensing and 199A, the combination of that package makes it very competitive. And as an operator myself over the years, my sons are running my businesses now, that is a very powerful tool. Anybody that's been in business knows that. It's a huge tool. That's why I'm very excited about what's possible, what could be done.
And you were one of the few congressmen that were around during the first negotiations on the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, is that correct? Mm-hmm. And now doing this again. Can you talk about what this will mean for the American people back home?
The big thing is it's going to be it's going to be permanent. Where before you always say it's the biggest tax increase and everything, that's because everything got sunsetted, or would be sunsetted. But the idea is, I think the biggest part of it is the permanency, and it helps families. I got 200,000 seniors in our district in terms of Social Security. They'd come in my office, and it was funny when I first got involved in politics. And they'd say, "I can't wait till I get to 65." And then another one would come in and say, "I can't wait to get to 65." But the whole thing is about Medicare, Social Security. And they'd always come in and say, why am I paying taxes? I already paid taxes on this money, I got to pay taxes again. So for 88%, at least of my constituents, and I'm sure across the country, they won't have any taxes they'll be paying on their Social Security. And so that's a good thing.
And you're vice chair Ways and Means right now. We were talking a bit about trade, the president's trade deals. I'm over at the White House talking about that a lot, both on the trade deals and then the tariffs, the impact on inflation, what this all means going forward. The cost of groceries, we saw the inflation report, the cost of groceries and gas ticking up a bit. How do you explain this to your constituents, where the direction of the country is heading with this?
Well, you figure we got 370 million people or whatever in the U.S., but there's 7 billion on the planet. I've been to 85 countries. We've done little or no trade deals. We're running a $1.2 trillion trade deficit. And some of them are very good friends of ours. You can set China aside for a minute, but when you look at Japan and other countries, so the idea is, and I think Trump's got the right ideas, just trying to find a way to get something that's fair and works for everybody. One of the big things I'd like to see us do is do something with the EU. They're about the same size in terms of population and their economy and everything in terms of the U.S., and see if we can't do something together and work together. That's something I've been pushing for 10 years. But we need to get back in the trade business. I'm part of a bipartisan group. We travel around the world. We focus on trade and we focus on democracy and focus on different issues. But one of the big things is they all want to get and structure a deal with us. And our goal is trying to find a way to get there. Now, we haven't had a lot of activity before the current president for a number of reasons. I don't want to get into them now, but we're back focused on that. And I think in terms of the president, when you look at he's structuring this and saying he's going to raise someone's rates 20% or 30% or this or that or whatever, it's his style of negotiation. But he's getting a lot of people, a lot of attention. And we've had no activity in this area, and now at least we're back in the game, ideally in a big way. And let's take, for example, Japan. We got huge negative debt ratios with them, and we've got to find a way we can get in the room and make where it's a little fair. At the end of the day, it's got to work for both people. As a business guy for a lot of years, I believe in win-win in terms of negotiation, not win-lose. And the idea is find some of these countries, South Korea, I helped put that in place originally. And of course, Japan, we did a phase one with them. We're going to do another agreement. But we want to make sure that we're doing everything to work with our neighbors and our friends, but it's got to be a little bit fair, and that would make a big difference to the country.
So you like his idea of, making sure that the other countries, or as he calls it, paying their fair share. He is diving back into this and trying to, like you said, for the first time, maybe in a while, trying to renegotiate some of these deals. And then in the interim, the impact on the American economy, maybe up and down, or you think in the overall, the American people will be okay, they could see cost?
I think with what they've put in place, a lot of the different things in terms of the new tax package, I think it's going to make a huge difference in terms of growth and not just small businesses and businesses, but also for the employees. So I'm very bullish about, where all this is going. We got to give it a chance, and I'm confident that we'll get where we need to go.
Give it a chance. I know you were talking a lot about what brought you to Congress was deficit, the national debt. That was one of the big reasons you came. You said since you came, it's increased quite a bit. How do you tackle that, and what ways do you think Congress is moving in the right direction or not moving in the right direction on that?
As I said, I got here, everybody has a reason why they ran, and mine was the debt and the deficit in 2006. We ran a $170 billion deficit at the time, and we were $8 trillion in change in debt. Now we're $37 trillion in debt. Which first $1 trillion that we take in taxes go to pay the debt. It's $1 trillion a year. You take in, last year we spent, we took in about $5 trillion, we spent $7 trillion. So the only way that's going to get resolved, I was talking to Steny Hoyer even about it yesterday, we've got to find a way that we can work together. I don't blame the Democrats, I blame both of us, and we've got to find a way to get this resolved. 49 out of 50 governors have to balance their budget. We need to balance it. And my first week in Congress was a balanced budget amendment, and every new Congress I put in place. We've had some votes on it, but we've got to find a way we get together on that, because I think at some point it's not a matter if, when, this becomes a huge problem.
And that's a key thing I think a lot of people don't hear maybe that often, is the idea of working together on this. You'll often hear on the news Democrats pushing back on Republicans for it, Republicans pushing back on Democrats saying it's their fault. You're saying it's both of our faults, and we both need to come together to solve this.
Hey, I'm probably, and I know the next speaker you got, Jody, is the same way. Bring us something. If they've got something, they know they can go to Vern and being senior on the list. And when they bring me something, I try to find a way to get to yes. And if someone will say, well, that good talk, Vern, or whatever, but just ask anybody that's a senior member on the Democratic side on Ways and Means, or Ways Democrats in general. I just figure we're all Americans. Let's find a way to get to yes. And that's the attitude I have, Democrats or Republicans or whatever. And I think that's my reputation. I hope that is.
I'm curious, you've been up there for 20 years now, you said. Have things gotten more divisive and more partisan over the years, or do you feel as though there's still a good deal of bipartisanship despite what people might see back home?
I think there is a lot, if you look at a lot of the bills, but there's a lot more we could be doing together. I mean, if we work together and compromise a little bit more on both sides, I think it'd make a big difference. We've got to deal with the debt and the deficit. You can't continue to run $2 trillion deficits in a given year, and we're at $38 trillion. It's just, I don't know when, but if we don't change the behavior, it's a big problem. And my focus has been on, for 20 years, focusing and trying to get people to pay more attention to that. Now, we are trying to deal with some different waste and fraud and abuse. They said, like Medicare, we're spending $1.3 trillion. There's 10% in terms of fraud and waste in that. Everybody kind of agrees to it. The Democrats even agree to it. And that's something we should be able to work together and get done.
I did want to ask you about Medicaid. The new bill does include historic cuts to Medicaid. The Florida Health Justice Project estimates the state will lose about $4 billion annually in Medicaid support. That could impact at least 1 million current recipients. So what's your message to constituents who you represent, who depend on Medicaid?
I think anybody that depends on it, it's going to be there, at least for my sense, the way I look at it. But there are a lot of people that take advantage of it. The intent of it was for mothers, pregnant women, with a poor family. It was available for them. But now there's a lot of people that are using it that shouldn't be using it, don't qualify. They need to be working ideally. And that's usually a 35-year-old male or something like that. Now, maybe that's just talking points out there. I don't know. But in talking with a lot of our people locally, we're going to figure out a way to work through it. If you qualify, you get it. If you're not qualified, we just want to make sure that it goes to the right people.
And I want to switch gears to something that's been in the headlines recently, and it's getting the attention specifically of House Republicans. We're hearing from a number of House Republicans, including the Speaker, who say they do want to see the Justice Department release all of the Epstein files. So I'm talking about the Epstein files now. Where do you stand on that? Are you joining in that call? Do you want to see transparency, or do you trust the administration to handle it?
I've seen our Speaker said something yesterday, and I haven't paid enough attention. It is on all the newses, but I rather focused on other things. But I'm going to talk to the Speaker about it today.
Okay. And overall, do you feel as though there should be transparency in the situation?
I do. I think it will probably resolve it quicker. And, a lot of times it's politics, but we'll see on this. I don't know enough about it other than just what I've heard in the last 3 or 4 days.
What's the biggest question you get from your constituents when you travel back home, or the biggest ask that they want to see you get done on Capitol Hill?
I think they like the ones that are friends of mine or business people, they want to see us start dealing with the debt and the deficit. I mean, like I said, the next speaker, he's the budget, he knows the importance of it, but there's a lot of us up here that like to see that get dealt with. And I think a lot of people are very concerned when they understand, the impact of that. A lot of people don't, unfortunately, but when they understand that we're $37 trillion in debt, the first trillion goes to pay interest on our debt, they can't believe it. And I think, but there are quite a few that are paying attention, at least in my district, and we're trying to address it.
And what's next on your agenda? What's the next thing you're working on, or anything in the future that you could share, maybe a preview of here today?
I think trade, I'd like to see us do more in terms of trade. I'd love to see something with the EU. We have a lot of the same values in the U.S. I know there was some talk initially about it. I'd like to see that get re-engaged. But we do travel around the country. We're going to South America. We'll be dealing with a lot of the leaders down there. But that'll be one of the big things that they really care about is, doing more trade with us. Everybody'd like to do more business with us. We've just got to be more available.
What do you think the impact with our neighbors to the north, also Canada, and trade with them, what does that look like going forward?
I think that's going to get worked out. I do want to mention one other thing before our show runs out.
Yeah.
Is I'm also chairing right now health, and that is a very big issue. We're spending $5 trillion a year in terms of Medicare and Medicaid. People are getting actually sicker in terms of our ranking in the world, and the whole thing for fee-for-service is. And I'm very much into prevention, trying to do whatever we can. Everybody's got to be a little bit the CEO of their own health, but also there's a lot of fraud, and we've got to get people to take more responsibility for their health because we can't afford it. I mean, $5 trillion a year, we're getting sicker. And a lot of it's not nobody's fault, but a lot of it's because of the pre-packaging of a lot of the various foods that people eat. There's no nutritional value. Yeah. Someone I read like 10 or 15 years ago read a book, and it changed my life because we're always struggling to go up and down in your weight. But it was basically the author had a equation. The top of the equation was the nutritional value of the food. The bottom of the equation was calories. So what's the most nutritional food with the fewest calories? And if you can answer that question and start better understanding that, it makes it very easy about weight management and your health in general. So as the chairman of health, that's to where I'm trying to drive our committee.
So a lot on your plate going forward from business to health, but we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. It was a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you.